So with just 30 minutes, T-minus 30 minutes to go, SpaceX Starship Flight Test 6. Flight Test 6. So I've brought in the feed here from NASA Spaceflight, and I'm super grateful to the NASA Spaceflight team for giving me access to their stream today. I just want to bring you some footage from Starship Flight Test 6 and going forward all things SpaceX and space from the UK, from here in the UK. So we know fueling has started, and with some information on the SpaceX website we can actually find out exactly what's happening, exactly what time. So, flight test timeline. So, with 30 minutes to go, we're actually in the booster liquid oxygen fueling stage, and you can see the venting from the tower, you can see the venting from the orbital launch mount. These are obviously Starship Launch Tower 1. They're currently in the process of building Launch Tower 2. So I'll be bringing you some more information on that as we move forward with this channel. Let's have a listen in to NASA Spaceflight, shall we, for a second? Let's see what they're saying.
Of action very quickly. If they do excuse me, if they do not hold at that point, which so far it's looking like, you know, pad, vehicle, weather, everything, it's looking good for launch at 4 p.m. If they do not hold there, it's going to be very quick. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that, because again, it's going to be, you know, detonation suppression system, deluge system, all of these things quickly in action, and you know, when you least expect it, you're already in the air.
Yeah, and this is a special flight because, you know, the previous flights were done at night, right? So we didn't get that daytime landing that we're going to get in the Indian Ocean like we anticipate this time, right, Adrian?
Absolutely, and I think I have another person to throw here too, because there's a certain plane that might get some new shots then, because this rocket is launching
all these
at a
camera
different
angles,
time.
it's fantastic, isn't it? It's so good. Look at all these cameras.
If we have a, hello everyone, me again. If we have a quick look down here, we can see the WB-57 has arrived on scene. It's currently flying over Starbase. Expect it to come out this way a little bit. It'll then start doing some racetrack patterns around here. So you can see, started off in Houston about an hour ago, made its way all the way down to South Texas. I'm just going to run through everything else whilst we have the chance. Oh, looks like I'm back. I'm just going to run through everything else whilst I have the chance. We can have a look at the clouds here. They're still dispersing out this way, which is good to see. It's very clear over Texas, very clear over the Gulf. You can see just really refreshed even, and it looks like we're still getting a little bit of cloud down here towards the right side of the trajectory, so to speak, but it's pretty clear from where everyone will be watching today. And I also just want to remind everyone of the sun difference that we're going to see at re-entry, because that is the reason why we're launching at this time today. See Starship Flight 5, this is the re-entry NOTAM and how the terminator line moves. So we're going from moving into sunset to moving into sunrise. So we're not going to get any views over Africa, unfortunately, like we have gotten on the previous test flights. However, we will get some wonderful re-entry views as we start to come in over Madagascar, Mauritius, and then moving into Australian airspace in the sunrise. So fingers crossed, if even with those 8 rows of tiles removed on each side of Ship 31, fingers crossed it makes it all the way through to a daylight splashdown in the Indian Ocean.
And that's what we've not had so far with the flight test program. We've not had the ability to see Starship splashdown. It's like a controlled landing in the Indian Ocean, and the last 2 flights it's been in the pitch black, so we've not been able to see it. So this is going to be really great to see it this time round.
Dream of these good conditions, not only for our photographers, but also, of course, for us, because we want to see the best thing that we possibly can. And so far, knocking on wood here, the conditions are quite good. There was some worry initially about, well, this could result in high temperatures and with that some heat haze. But that seems to be not the case so far. Humidity is actually quite down, if I recall correctly, which is good, because that also results in... yeah, we're looking good here.
The internet's struggling a little bit with this feed, but we'll see how we get on.
And let's hope these conditions
Going a couple of
stay that
seconds
way.
out, but I
Of
will
course,
keep you
let's
up
hope
to date on what's
Starship
going on.
completes the final steps here in the next 25 minutes, because if it completes all of these steps, then we might get a launch at these wonderful conditions. And Alex, I will just throw
This
to
looks
you
fantastic.
here. What are these next steps that we are looking in the next
Let's listen
25
in.
minutes?
Yeah, the very next thing should be in about 5 minutes from now. That'll be the engine chill starting. Those 33 Raptor engines on the booster and the 6 engines on the ship will be conditioned, just like we've seen with a tank farm. We've seen it with a launch tower and the launch mount. All of those ventings, we're gonna see very similar. We already are seeing some of that on the ship. There's already some of that venting going on. It does not fully indicate, though, that engine chill is underway. That venting is normal even when there's no engine chill underway. Sort of, we see a very similar behavior, for example, on Falcon 9 with the MVAC engine. But overall, that's the next thing that we should be seeing here in the next few minutes. But again, just waiting to see all of that propellant being loaded. Still 20 more minutes on the propellant load.
So this is not exactly like Flight 5. This flight profile is a little bit different because they want to test and push the limits of what's going on. They took the tiles off some of the sides, but they also have a couple things. Now, I want to go around the horn here, Adrian and Alex. They're doing an in-flight test of restarting a Raptor engine. What are the odds of a engine bay cam? I'm hoping because we used to get those. Remember, we used to get them on the hop tests. And they're doing an engine,
so too.
and they're doing an engine. That might be their secret. They haven't said anything about it. We know where they're going to do this test. This is going to try it. I would love to have a camera inside the engine bay. What about you guys?
So there's a camera there. Like we know that there's a camera there. They have sometimes shown it on these recap videos that they do later. We know that this ship bay has a camera. The question is always just what do they clear and use for broadcast? And there's another tricky part here, and that is what is the exact coverage of ground stations and Starlink and everything at that moment in time? Because sometimes you're maybe are not in the perfect position to have great signal at that moment, which means you're just getting telemetry confirmation. So
brought it back.
that's just something you can run into in orbit. Orbit internet is not as easy as ground internet sometimes. So we will have to see if they can show that, because 25 minutes into the flight, that could be a moment where the ship is basically right over nowhere. And that could be the situation where they actually have a great connection.
Alex, do you think they're going to do this relight test before they reorient the ship for re-entry, like on the uphill, or do you think they're going to reorient the ship then do the relight test, because they have to land at a very specific place in the Indian Ocean? When do you think they're going to do that relight test?
That should be about 10 minutes before entry, according to the SpaceX timeline at the very least, right? And so I think it's just going to be prograde, just like they were trying to do on Flight 3, which will not need any weird, relocation or reattitude kind of thing. We'll see, though. They may have changed their minds, right, for this flight. It's a complete different flight than Flight 3. We'll see.
Yep. And again, once the entire ship lifts off from the OLM, we're going to be able to see, hopefully, again, those views of the beautiful blue plume coming out from those 33 Raptor engines, and potentially we'll see the hot stage ring again, right, Adrian?
Absolutely. The exact trajectory of the hot staging ring might be influenced because in the end, that hot staging ring is kind of like a more passive object. Like, it doesn't have an engine or thruster or anything to orientate itself. So if there's like,
I brought in SpaceX's live feed. Actually, switch between the two scenes. Okay. Yep, NASA spaceflight is slightly ahead, which is good, and that's the one I'll be watching. It's about a second ahead. No. It's a couple of seconds ahead. Okay, brilliant. So we'll stick with NASA spaceflight, I think, for this stream, because I don't want to miss even a second of this. As you can imagine, this is really quite exciting. Actually, on scene.
Now, while the booster is doing its job, the ship's 6 engines will remain lit for a few minutes before shutting down and then going into the coast phase. The ship will coast for a total of about 40 minutes or so, reaching a peak altitude of approximately 213 kilometers. Now, one additional objective for this flight during coast is an in-space burn using one of ship's Raptor engines. Doing a burn while in space will build confidence that we can do deorbit burns, which is a key capability for upcoming orbital missions. Now, after the coast phase, the ship will attempt a controlled re-entry, and if ship makes it all the way down, will once again perform a flip and landing burn before splashing down in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah. Now, there are some notable changes to our entry plans for this flight, and they will intentionally push the ship to, and very likely beyond, its limits. This includes several thermal protection upgrades and operational changes as we prepare for future ship catch and reuse. Today's flight test will also test new secondary thermal protection materials, and entire sections of the heat shield has actually been removed in certain areas. And on top of all of that, we're going to fly the ship at an aggressive angle of attack once it's moving slower than the speed of sound.
Now, this means we'll be flying nose down instead of our usual belly flap orientation during final descent. This will no doubt stress the limits of the flap's ability to maintain control, but it will be a chance to get real flight data on what our limits actually are.
So, to put it as bluntly as possible, do not be surprised if this is not a smooth flight to splashdown today. We are intentionally looking for how far we can push and discover the vehicle's true limits as we plan for future ship return and catch.
And even though in this video, you can see our original render of booster catch alongside the actual footage of catch from Flight 5. This video is just mind-blowing to see the predicted versus reality. And just like the last flight for today's booster catch, there are thousands of criteria that need to be met in order to proceed with catch. Automated checks have to indicate we have a healthy booster and a healthy tower, and the flight director must issue a manual command which is informed by manual checks from the flight control team. If this command is not sent prior to the completion of the boost back burn, or if automated health checks show unacceptable conditions with Super Heavy or the tower, the booster will default to a trajectory that takes it to a landing burn and soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico.
I remember when we first heard the call out that tower was go for catch on Flight 5, and wow, I still get goosebumps when I think about that moment. Now, for today's test, just like Flight 5, we're only going to catch if everything on the booster and the tower checks out after launch. As always, we accept no compromises when it comes to the safety of the public and our team. And so to that end, the area around the pad and the flight path are cleared in advance.
A lot of things have to go right in order to line up the booster catch. So if all criteria is met, we will attempt the catch, but there is a chance that we may not. Either way, we'll be getting tons of in-flight data, which is extremely valuable.
Exactly. That first catch was pretty epic, though. So, like you, we'll be keeping our hopes high to see another one this afternoon. Now, Dan, you got to see it in person last time. Are you mentally prepared for a possible round two?
I mean, probably not. That was pretty hands down the coolest thing I've ever seen. And the fact that we're going to do that every time now breaks my brain a little bit, but it was absolutely incredible. One of the unique aspects with Super Heavy coming back is it does generate a sonic boom. This is something commonly associated with reusable spacecraft. It's coming in faster than the speed of sound and then slowing down. It creates that pressure wave that builds up, and then when it reaches you on the ground, that rapid change in pressure is that quick thunderclap sound that you hear. Now, generally, the only effect is that thunderclap sound, but if you're not expecting it, it's definitely going to get your attention, and we were able to hear it last time. The impact of, or how loud it is, changes pretty dramatically. And in this video, you can see as we were descending, and there was kind of that quick triple pop that you heard. Now, that was picked up from closer to the pad. Most people at our distance and further away, you're only going to hear one or two as they're happening kind of so on top of each other that it might just sound like one big bang. But as I said, that's something that's only associated with spacecraft being reused. We hear it with Falcon 9. We heard it during Shuttle, and looking forward to hopefully hearing it today. Just a quick status check, though. We're about 85% full on ship, almost 2/3 of the way full on booster, continuing to count down about 13 and a half minutes, a little under that, until we lift off today. But still looking good. I'll check back in with you guys in a few minutes. Back over to Jesse and Kate.
So I'm just going to cut in here. This is back to NASA Spaceflight stream. I'm going to hit the live button again. My internet, like I say, is struggling, but I've got a few streams going on, so that might be why. So with just 12 minutes to go, 12 and a half minutes to go, we are looking at, if I look at the, here we go, this is the countdown checklist. 19 minutes 40, Raptor engine begins, engine chill on booster and ship. So we are still filling the ship at the moment, and we're still filling the booster, so they're both being fueled currently, with the ship looking to be fully loaded with propellant at 3 minutes 20, T-minus 3 minutes 20, and then the booster propellant load will be complete at 2 minutes 50. With 30 seconds to go, we'll be looking at the SpaceX flight director verifying go for launch. With 10 seconds to go, T-minus 10 seconds, we'll have the flame deflector activation, so we'll actually see all the water coming up from below the OLM, orbital launch mount, and you'll see from previous videos, and I'll bring in some previous flight tests. The very first Starship flight test completely obliterated the ground below with 7,500 tons of thrust. It's not really surprising, but they have done a lot of work on the launch mount and the facilities there, and with the water deluge system is just incredible, and you'll see the water coming up from below, and that brings down the volume of the sound, the flames, protect the environment and to protect the launch mount and the facilities around it.
Spacecraft in lunar orbit, where astronauts will transfer over for their descent. Now, once on the lunar
So the audio I'm going to be using for this stream is going to be from SpaceX. So it should line up within about a couple of seconds difference. So it'll line up near enough, but I think the audio could be quite interesting on the SpaceX feed.
Starship Enterprise
with all these visuals from NASA Spaceflight. I'm
so exciting, and all the advancements
really,
that are
truly
gonna
grateful
come
for
in
them
order
allowing me to
enable all of
use
that.
their
Now, our
stream.
rapid iterative development approach has been the basis for all of SpaceX's major innovative advancements, including Falcon, Dragon, and Starlink. Today we're testing hardware
Let's
and
hit the
systems,
live button again and see where
we need
we
to
are.
know how they perform under the most extreme conditions. And what's more extreme than the flight environment? We'd much rather find the bugs and limits now during testing than later on when there's more on the line.
And to
Nearly
reiterate,
3
while we do
seconds
determine
difference.
an acceptable level of technical risk on our vehicle and pad to learn as fast as possible, we accept no compromises when it comes to the safety of the public or our team. So all of that to say, this is only the 6th of many future flight tests of Starship before it becomes fully operational.
And we tend to do our testing out in the open, just like today. And that means people sometimes see when our hardware doesn't perform as we planned during that testing. And that's okay, because this is exactly what we are testing for, to physically see if hardware performance matches what we expect it to do or not. Even more with today's test flight, where we're purposefully pushing the ship beyond its limits.
Starship development is also being aided by Starlink space-based connectivity. You might remember the Starlink panels that are incorporated into Starship, and you can see them there on your screen, those rectangular panels on Starship's nose cone. Starlink brings us the epic views in space and on re-entry, and also helps deliver us critical flight data engineers need to continue development.
Yeah, Starlink continues to help us push the limits in space in the short term by providing great views and real-time data on our next few flights, particularly through re-entry, which spaceflight veterans know that is historically a period of blackout for all communications within spaceflight.
Outside of Starship, Starlink has helped people across the globe, particularly in rural and remote areas that have been underserved by traditional broadband internet.
Yeah, and soon Starship will deploy our next generation Starlink satellites, which will continue to increase our capability to connect even more people with high-speed internet all around the world and beyond. Now, as we continue to prepare for our next several flight tests, we recently performed a cryo-proof test of the Starship for Flight 7, our first operation with the vehicle debuting a number of major milestones. The ship has been stretched to make room for larger propellant tanks, increasing the propellant capacity from 1,200 tons to 1,500 tons. The forward flaps also got a redesign. They have shrunk in size and they also shifted in location, and both of these things will help better protect them during entry heating while still providing control. There's also a wide range of upgrades that will make the vehicle more reliable, adding redundancy to and the ability to operate for longer durations in space.
One unique aspect of a trip to Mars are the different conditions ship will see when entering the Martian atmosphere. Now, it's difficult to simulate Mars's atmosphere when re-entering on Earth, so we've been testing a variety of heat shield materials inside a specialized plasma jet chamber at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, where we're able to more closely simulate Mars's 95% carbon dioxide atmosphere.
Aside from looking awesome, this is important testing. The intense heat of entry will cause the CO2 to break down into its base elements, exposing Starship to atomic oxygen, which increases surface heating and can cause materials to oxidize or start to break down. Spacecraft entering over Mars encountered more than twice the amount of atomic oxygen at their peak when compared to Earth, and that is certainly a unique challenge. As we continue to test, we'll learn more about what makes a great heat shield for Mars. All right, now that we're heading into the final minutes of the countdown, let's go back to Dan for the latest on the ground there at Starbase.
Hey, Kate, afraid I have nothing but good news for you. We have a go from our range safety team. We are a little over 90% full on ship, almost 85% full on booster, and not tracking any holds to an on-time liftoff. So we've got about 3 more minutes of prop load. As long as the range stays clear, we don't trip any other holds, we might blow right past that T-minus 40-second mark and lift off right at the top of our window at 4 p.m. Central. So toss it back to you guys one more time, but fun part about to start, we are, a little under 6 minutes away from launch.
All right, so we are continuing to progress now at 5 minutes and 43
good.
seconds until liftoff. Now, once we pass the T-minus 40-second mark, a number of events are going to occur in rapid succession. The ground spin and ignition systems will come up to flight pressure, and the ship will go on to internal power.
And then after that, the quick disconnect, or what we call the QD arm lockout, is removed in preparation for retraction shortly after T0. And once we pass the T-minus 40-second mark, we still have the ability to recycle the count under certain conditions back to T-minus 40 seconds and then hold there to assess
at the
what
weather.
happened and if we can proceed again to T0.
I just love
Exactly.
to be there. Just
However,
love to be there.
once the water for the deflector system begins flowing at T-minus 10 seconds, any issue after that would be an automatic scrub for the day, as the teams would need to refill the deflector's water tanks as well as the propellant storage tanks over at the tank farm before we're able to make another attempt.
Now, it is just so unbelievable that it's just been only a little over a month, and we are just a few minutes away from Flight 6. The crowd here is building up. We've got a much larger crowd here than when we were launching at 4 or 5 in the morning out here. So very exciting to have an afternoon launch to have all the employees here.
Exactly. Now, just as a reminder, that T-minus 40-second hold, if we opt to use it, everything is still potentially go for launch. So nothing to be worried about there. At that point, basically up until T-minus 40 seconds, all aborts are just holds. This would allow the team to wait for final checkouts to assess propellant levels, engines, avionics, vehicle pressurization, range, weather. Occasionally we've had shrimp boats lingering in the past, but that doesn't sound like that is the case today.
Yeah, not today. No shrimp boats, which is great. Everything so far is looking good. We're getting really excited here, just a few minutes away. We're going to go back, send it over to Dan in Starbase. How's it going, Dan?
It is still going great, just coming up on about 3.5 minutes away, so we should be done with our prop load on ship momentarily. Then about 30 seconds later, we'll close out on booster. Our flight control team on board, or in the building just behind me, not on board. Some of them might wish they were on board. Flight control in the ground systems is going to get pushed back to the tanks, clear out everything around the pad right before we light those 33 engines and take off. Just quick reminder, you're going to see fire start at the bottom. You're going to see the deflector start at about 10 seconds before launch. Lots of water to help dissipate all that heat, all that sound. And then the engine starting up in 3 different groups. And then about a second after T0, we should see liftoff. About 2.5 minutes into the flight, a little bit longer, we'll see hot staging, and that's when we're going to be listening really close on those loops to see if we're going to be bringing the booster back for a catch today. Do always want to caution, it's never a guarantee. We've done this once. We'll see if we do it again. We're only going to do it if the booster and the tower are looking really good before we attempt to bring it back here. But coming up on a minute, not tracking any holds on the board right now. So as long as we don't have any last second things, which do happen. All right, flight director just confirmed T-minus 1 minute.
Oh my god, oh my god.
Key moment to look at in 10 seconds, that T-minus 40.
Oh, NASA Space Flight feed is still
And we flew
live. We're
right
keeping
through
up.
that.
30 seconds.
Flight directors go for launch.
All right, we're now T-minus 20 seconds until liftoff of Starship Flight 6. This will mark our second attempt to catch the Super Heavy booster at the launch tower, as well as...
Sit back and enjoy. Sit back and enjoy this. Water deluge, here we go.
3, 2, 1.
Bang on the target. All 33 Raptor engines. Look, all 33 Raptor engines.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Booster Raptor, chamber pressure nominal.
This is epic. Absolutely epic.
Booster and ship, avionics, power, and telemetry nominal.
All right, we're just a little over a minute
maximum
into flight.
dynamic pressure.
We're about 6 miles away, so all the sound's still hitting us here. Hearing good call-outs that power telemetry nominal, that's flying straight and true. We do see all 33 Raptor engines lit up on telemetry screens. At this point, we've passed through that point of maximum aerodynamic pressure, that max Q. Now, coming up in just a little over a minute from now is going to be hot staging. So we're going to see the 6 engines on the ship ignite while still attached to the booster. Just before that, we'll see all but 3 center engines on the booster shut down. In what we call MECO, it's most engines cut off instead of main engine. And so while we continue to watch it go up, a lot of our flight controllers looking at all the systems around the tower. Again, we have to send a manual command. Just about 30 seconds away from hot staging.
We're actually going to see hot staging on the left on NASA spaceflight before we see it on the SpaceX stream.
And we heard the tower is go for catch.
Booster engine cut off.
The return flag is set for true.
Ship engine start up.
Tower's good for catch. The booster is now doing the boost back burn.
Separation.
All right,
Booster is coming back to its comms tower.
On the ship.
So we're coming back.
Booster boost back going. We heard that we are go for catch. Kate Jesse taking the views. Hopefully I got a booster coming home real soon.
Wow, from our view here, Dan, great views of planet Earth behind that Super Heavy booster. Right now it is performing the boost back burn. Nominal. Good news there, telling us that the pressures inside the ship are good. That is the second stage, or the upper portion of the vehicle. Follow along with the telemetry on the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, booster is currently, Super Heavy is currently in its boost back burn. This boost back burn.
Avionics, power, and telemetry nominal.
This boost back burn lasts just a little bit over a minute, so we've got a little, approximately 30 seconds left.
We've had shutdown of that boost back burn. Up next will be hot stage jettison. The view from the camera on the left, or from the booster on the left-hand side of your screen, and then tracking cam there on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll see those grid fins.
Booster offshore divert.
And we can also see that the hot stage has been jettisoned.
Yes, visual confirmation of that there on your screen, which is great.
Gulf of Mexico.
Now the next
Starship is following a nominal trajectory.
The next step for booster is going into that landing burn. Again, it'll light up 13 of those engines and then pare down to 3 engines right before booster catch.
All right, now just real quick, we did hear the call out, booster offshore divert. Unfortunately, that means that we are no-go for the catch. As we said before, both the tower and the vehicle, as well as the operators on console, have been actively evaluating the commit criteria for that return to the launch tower. And unfortunately, we did not have a pass on those commit criteria. So we are no-go for tower catch.
And we did mention that we're constantly evaluating the criteria for catch. There's a lot of things that need to go well in order to line that up. Unfortunately, today we will forego booster catch today. But what you're seeing on your screen is ship currently making its way towards the Indian Ocean, still looking good so far.
Exactly. So views there of the booster on the left-hand side of your screen, views of the ship on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, we've said before that it was not guaranteed that we would be able to make a tower catch today. So while we were hoping for it, like we said, it was pretty epic on attempt 1, but the safety of the teams and the public and the pad itself are paramount. So we are accepting no compromises in any of those areas.
Exactly, and we're still going to get a lot of good flight data with booster even, but especially with ship. Again, we have an additional objective today to do an in-space relight of a Raptor engine, which again will help us set us up for being able to do deorbit burns, which is
ship chamber pressure phenomenal.
Which is
the
important
heating of the
for
engines
orbital
again. This is
flights.
what
And what you're
happened in the
seeing
last
on
flight.
your screen is a view from Super Heavy as it's
Super
making its way
heated
back down to Earth.
on the re-entry.
Yeah, once again, we are attempting an offshore landing of the Super Heavy booster. So we have seen this before, and it is still very fun to watch, watching it come down for a soft splashdown off the Gulf Coast of Texas. We can see it there re-entering. We saw earlier those grid fins. There are 4 hypersonic grid fins. Oh, we can see that the landing burn has begun.
We've not actually been able to see this as well as this
Same
before.
pattern, 13 engines will light. Gone down to 3, just as we expected.
It's a soft splashdown in the ocean.
And what an incredible view of splashdown
Exactly what
that
it would
we
have done
got
on the
today.
tower anyway.
Oh, Super Heavy.
Yeah, I'm sure the buoy cam views will be pretty awesome once again. So we'd like to confirm a water landing once again for the Super Heavy booster. Congrats to the SpaceX team for making that milestone as well. Now, ship continues to look good. We can see that it is, while all of that was happening, the crowd
Our
here
attention
in
can turn to the
Hawthorne,
Starship now.
continuing to react to all these amazing views that we're getting. The next milestone is
Starship is in terminal guidance.
great news there. Starship terminal guidance, referring to what we see here on our screen, the upper stage. At about 8 minutes 35 seconds or so, we have ship engine cutoff, which will be the cutoff of the Raptor engines. We can see on our screen ship giving us some incredible views brought to us by Starlink. This view is also very interesting because we can see basically the receding tile line that we referred to earlier, where we mentioned we have removed a number of heat shield tiles in order to test out and push the envelope on the ship and demonstrate what its capabilities are.
Ship engine cutoff.
And there we just heard call out for SECO, ship engine cutoff. Great news there. Everything continuing to look awesome for ship.
Full view looking aft on ship here.
Ship FTS is saved. Nominal orbit insertion.
There's that call out we were waiting for. Confirmation of good orbital insertion for ship today.
It has been a very exciting afternoon so far. We'd like to send it back over to Dan, who can give us that live view experience. Dan, once again, are you okay after witnessing another Starship launch?
Yeah, totally fine. It's you guys have to be jealous. This is the only way to do this. This is fantastic. No, it was really cool to see it lift off 33 out of 33. Didn't go for the booster catch today. Initially, we were good, and then we tripped a commit criteria and did the offshore divert. So we went and did that water landing, as everybody saw. We'll dig into it a little bit more, but again, we've done it once, we've now done it twice. We're going to keep trying to do it, as this is just a core capability of Starship and what's going to make it so incredible. There's a lot left. We're just about almost 10 minutes into this flight, so about 50 plus minutes still to go. Ship nominal orbit, so it's on its way around the planet. It's going to attempt to do an in-space burn. We're going to light one of those Raptor engines, the sea level ones in the middle, just to help demonstrate that we can relight in that microgravity environment. Really critical for deorbit burns as we start to do some orbital missions in the not too distant future. And then following that, we'll see a ship entry, maybe a splashdown. As you guys said, we're really going to be pushing ship on this one. We're pretty much intentionally putting it in places where we expect it might not do so great, and all that's to try and help us learn, see if we were a little too conservative, and then maybe that opens up more capability for when we start catching them. But I'll check back in with everybody in a little bit. I'm going to tune in and watch the ship fly around planet Earth, and hopefully we see it re-entering in the not too distant future. Back over to you guys.
Thanks, Dan. Development testing, by definition, is unpredictable, which we saw with Super Heavy splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico today, but that is exactly why we test. As is standard for these tests, the area around the pad and along the flight path was cleared prior to launch, and we expect the road and beach to remain closed until further notice.
Yeah, testing development flight hardware in a flight environment is what enables our teams to quickly learn and execute design changes and hardware upgrades to improve the probability of success in the future. Please do not attempt to approach the booster in the water for your safety as well as for that of our team that will be working on recovery.
Don't go near it.
We are going to continue, though. The mission is not done.
Exactly. The mission's not over. Ship is still coasting. But it has been nonstop since liftoff, and with the booster having completed its job for the day, we are going to take a short break for the next 35 minutes or so while ship continues to coast before re-entry. Now, as with previous flights, Starlink...
It's about 35 minutes, just looking at the timeline here. We should book a Starship entry at about 47 minutes, 13 seconds. That's the scheduled time. Let's see how close we are to that. It'll be transonic at 1 hour, 2 minutes, 6 seconds, and the Starship will be subsonic, 1 hour, 3 minutes, 12 seconds. It should go for a landing flip at 1 hour, 4 minutes, 56 seconds. Landing burn at 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 1 second. And then about 23 seconds later, we should have an exciting landing of Starship. So unfortunately the SpaceX feed has stopped on Twitter. Let's see if I can get it back. I know they're taking a break, aren't they? Yep. We can listen in on NASA Spaceflight now.
Explosion, right?
And that's absolutely understandable. Just to point this out again, this rocket, you have a lot of boosters. They have a lot of boosters. They have a lot of ships. They right now only have one operational launch complex.
Yep.
So protecting that at all costs, if something is not right, that is the right approach, because they can launch again in 2-3 months and try again. But they cannot rebuild a whole launch site in 2-3 months if they completely have something off and land a booster inside of it. So that is the approach that we want to see. That is a very reasonable decision. And yeah, I mean, absolutely still amazing footage. The pictures are absolutely beautiful of this launch so far.
Yeah, and from the roof, seeing it with my own eyes. Again, I right before I cut out, I was like, look, I have no magnification. I didn't even have my phone out. It was just standing on the roof with, a group of folks and just watching it. And I can't explain what it's like. I've watched NSF for so long. I've seen all of the launches, and I hear the rumbles from the cameras in the field and the folks doing their job. But to feel it hit is just unbelievable. It's just something I'll never forget. And this is only Flight 6. How many more?
Yeah.
We got a lot more to go.
We absolutely still have a lot more to go.
What is that shot? Oh, that's down the flap. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's down one of the flaps. It's amazing, these views that we're getting, right? That, you know, how we're seeing almost orbital sunset, I guess, because it's actually not orbital, but you know what I mean.
I love how the stainless steel, when exposed to that kind of heat, starts tinting those colors. I looked up what that was called the other day, and I forgot it. I just watched a rocket launch, and my brain is
Look
going.
at these people there.
Oh yeah!
Wow.
They're so
And
lucky.
there's the banana.
So
There's the banana payload.
Yeah, there it is.
Banana for scale.
Open the door.
Yep.
Pez dispense that banana.
You can see
Yep,
the cables are not in tension. They are essentially free floating now.
I got my bananas.
Absolutely gorgeous here. And we still have that engine relight and re-entry. And I mean, if at the end of the day you're getting an engine relight in space of a Raptor engine and the re-entry footage, I mean, I'd take that. It's still gonna be quite an exciting evening, and that will be about the next hour, because until that ship re-entry, we are talking about well, it will start in less than an hour, but if the ship goes all the way, it's about an hour, if we get all the way to splashdown. So yeah, there's the roof team.
I was wearing my shirt. I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist a wardrobe change before I ran up to the roof, so I had to change. Hey guys, I had to change my I just changed my shirt for this launch. First rocket launch. Got to wear my captain's uniform.
And again, just a shout out to NASA Spaceflight. Super grateful for letting me have the stream for my little video, my little channel.
Do we know where in the sunlight it's going to be?
It will be roughly at dawn, if I recall correctly. But that's the most exciting thing here, right? We are getting a ship flip and a ship landing for in daylight.
I'm really interested to see how the sides of the ship, how they handle not having the TPS tiles. And again, they're pushing these vehicles to the limit. I want to ride one. I mean, you guys don't. Everybody knows you guys don't. I'm in. Elon, I'm ready. DM me.
Alex and I have committed for a journey of covering Starship while sitting on Earth.
Can I interrupt you two? Can you look at your screen there? How beautiful that blue line is.
Yeah,
I just wanted to bring that up because it's gorgeous, and I cannot wait to see that relight. That relight might happen. I'm mostly sure it'll happen in nighttime, so we're gonna see some interesting light spectacle there, and then when it re-enters, it'll go into daylight. So
yeah, the relight demo, they're looking at T plus 37 minutes 46 seconds. So
and yeah, this is basically
about 20
we are
minutes
right
away.
now experiencing the sunset before that sunrise, which will then result in the ship re-entering over the Indian Ocean. It's gonna be quite a spectacle.
Yeah, the Earth is off to the right on your screen, looking down the ship. So that's why when you saw that halo, that blue line of the sun coming through the atmosphere, absolutely incredible views.
Yeah, I fully agree. There we go. There's look at that blue line. Look at that. That's ridiculous.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I can go see it fading away.
Oh my!
I don't even know what we're looking at. Like, which camera is this? Because it's so dark that you cannot even see the ship.
But
that's fantastic.
I'm the last guy on Earth that's going to be speechless, and I'm literally speechless. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And we, again, as Adrian said, we've got probably 40 more minutes, maybe 35 more minutes. Then we'll start to see whatever that relight is, right? When we don't know when it's going to happen. I'm just waiting for the engine bay cam to turn on, and
It is if the SpaceX timeline is to be believed, that should be at T plus 37 minutes.
It's a space nanner. When was the last time we saw the inside? Wasn't it? Was it
Flight 3?
Three?
Flight test three, yeah.
When they tried to open the payload bay door and all the venting came in and was flopping around.
You can see the banana has floated a little bit up on the payload bay.
That's their 0G indicator.
Not quite a 0G. Not quite a 0G banana.
Zero G
Not
banana.
quite.
I want that on a shirt too, Adrian. 0G banana.
I guess it makes sense on their 420th launch.
Yeah, it's so far that ship is very much going, and we are approaching slowly but surely that moment of Raptor relight, which will be amazing to see. We that burn, Alex? That burn is probably just a few seconds, right?
Yeah, I would expect that to be just very, very short burn.
But so right now the propellant is floating around in the tanks, and they push liquid oxygen out? No, they wouldn't do that. They would put something with their RCS thrusters. They're going to move the ship forward slightly to settle everything. Or are we talking about pressurization from the? Oh my gosh! Again, just saw a rocket launch from the other
That's
tanks.
fine.
One thing that we should be seeing shortly, I don't even know if we're going to see actually, because, well, yeah, darkness, right? But they should be preparing that Raptor engine to relight, and that involves chilling down the engine, right? And so I'm not sure if we're even going to be able to see that process, but that will be very, very interesting to know if maybe they'll show it or not.
Well, we don't want to see that.
Folks are saying that the booster. I mean, we saw the explosion. Is it floating? I mean, it's got to be a chunk of it. I don't know. We saw
Some chunks might have floated. Yeah, they'll get rid of that eventually.
Oh yeah.
And we are of course looking here, standing by for.
That was an expensive payload to get into.
Yeah, that's probably the most expensive launch banana ever.
The banana. Somebody could get it from the Indian Ocean. Who knows?
One thing that Ryan is remembering, sort of reminded me in the back channel is the transfer tube. So, there's two tanks on Super Heavy, right? The top tank carries methane, and then the bottom tank carries liquid oxygen. The thing is, in order to carry that methane from the top tank all the way down to the engine, you need a transfer tube. That is a long, very thin tube through which all of that methane goes through, and then there's a manifold at the bottom and everything that distributes the methane to all of the 33 engines. That tube is very, very like sort of a weak point when you try to hit the booster from the side. And so one of the potential things that might have happened, in which they have seen in the past, at least for the ship, is that maybe that transfer tube snapped or something, and that caused the methane to burst essentially and to pop out once that impact with the water as it tumbled occurred. Very similar thing, if we have buoy camera today, we'll probably see a similar thing with Ship 31 today. If it lands on the ocean, don't be surprised if a few seconds later you see a fireball, because that thing will tumble and tip over after splashdown, and then that's sort of a weak point it's a weak point for that kind of load. It is not designed for that, I should say, right? Of course, it is completely designed for all of the flight environments. We saw Booster 12 already landing on the chopsticks and everything, and its transfer tube, it was good. There was no explosion or anything. But obviously, these boosters and ships are not made to tip over on the ocean, and be hit by that water at that velocity. They are not made for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Should be coming up in 5 minutes.
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
Relight.
And they're showing the inside of the ship. It's the only thing that's lit up. It's still in darkness, so it should be coming to dawn here pretty soon.
And you can see there some of the some of the launch pad systems. SpaceX says Starship is 30 minutes into its 6th flight test and all systems continue to look nominal. So that's a good sign.
4 more minutes here to go. The tank farm and everything, of course, going now into a little bit of a savings mode, making sure they properly chill down while Starship is doing its thing. There it is.
And the important thing today with this relight is that they never got to do it on Flight 3. They were attempting to do that,
You see the
but
banana moving
unfortunately,
around.
Ship 28, the ship for that mission, did not have a good, stable attitude control. Its roll control thrusters were blocked by ice, and so those were not working. Of course, as we've seen with Flight 4 and 5, they have had that much better control. They have that attitude control issue seems to not be happening. And today, so far, I've been looking at that sort of graphics that they have for the attitude of the ship, and so far so good. Like it's pretty much, holding steady.
There we go. 2 to 3 more minutes. It's at 37:46, of course, initial timeline. Could all be changing.
I'm sort of hoping we see like a side by side.
Yeah, I would see the banana.
Of banana
moving.
and the engine bay.
Oh, I'd love that.
And so we see the relight, and then on the banana cam, we see the
G.
banana sort of like, being accelerated down by the,
Oh yeah, true.
by the burn. Because
Oh,
right now
that
it's in
would just be
zero
brilliant.
G, right? It's floating there. It's held by those. Ooh, look at that! You can see
that?
lightning on the ground. Oh, well,
Saw
on
that.
the Earth.
Earth's a planet. Ooh, look at
Is
that.
that the moon as well? Ooh, look at that!
I know what I'm looking at.
That's so
SpaceX,
cool.
turn the lights on.
A bit more until orbital sunrise. Oh, is that like an inspection light?
What is that?
No, it should be the engine chill.
Oh. And we are 2 minutes away from that relight.
So some venting is normal.
Wow, fantastic. And yes, in the
Yeah, that's
bottom right,
cool.
that is a reflection of the moon, I think. Of course, watch for one of these Raptor engines at the bottom right. You will probably see one of them flash white as they ignite that.
Or so we hope, because for Flight 4 and 5, it seems like it did not work for the landing burn. I'm not sure why that was the case. Let's see if that works now. Should be about a minute and a half or so.
Want to
So this
stress
view
that
is
we're
from
on
one
a
of the aft
trajectory
flaps
where
here.
if we didn't fire off the engine at all, we are definitely coming home. Ooh, seeing some thunderstorms down on the ground. That's pretty cool. But
Wow,
this
yeah.
is not a deorbit burn. If we didn't fire this engine, we're on a intentional suborbital trajectory. So no matter what, we're coming in over the Indian Ocean. Firing off the engine does change your exact splashdown point a little bit, but we've got this keep out zone across the entire Indian Ocean that we made sure was clear ahead of flight, and we continue to monitor during. But we're going to aim for that and hopefully see this relay test coming on in about a minute. It's just going to be one of these engines, and it uses what's called the header tank, so these small spherical tanks in the very top of Starship up in the nose cone. They don't require nearly as much gas to pressurize as your main tank, so they're really useful for any in-orbit maneuvers, and then for landing burn. So if we make it to a landing burn today, we'll be using them for that as well.
There we go. And
Yeah.
just 30 seconds from now.
I believe this
That
is one of the forward
expected.
flaps.
Let's see what
I'll have
happens
to confirm
here.
that for you.
We want to see. Hopefully, please show us the engine bay cam,
Bay.
Yeah.
Come on.
please. I wish I had like a steering panel for the cameras of SpaceX.
Oh,
We get DOS working on it.
engine bay cam.
Yeah, probably. We should see.
Let's see it over
There
here.
it is.
Yep, there we go.
And
Just
shutdown.
heard the call out for startup.
There we go. There it is. Yes.
There's
Thanks,
some
Big
light.
Cam.
There's that Raptor relit. And shut down.
Fantastic.
Good.
Nice.
Yes.
Looks like it was engine 1.
Engine 1.
Yep.
One of the
one is
sea-level
always.
engines.
It's 1, 2, 3 counterclockwise, right? Or was
It's 1 is the top, the left one is 3, and the right one
Yeah.
is 2.
Okay.
Of the center engines.
And there we go. That's a big win for SpaceX, demonstrating that engine relight capability in space. I know it's less spectacular than a catch, but that's a very important capability that SpaceX needs to fly actual operational missions, which might come with V2 of Starship.
Yeah, when the next version
Starting
of
to
Starship
do the
come
entry
out,
prep for that, so we're going to get the flaps positioned, and then it's going to start taking the brunt of all of that heat as you're coming in from well in excess of 10,000 miles an hour.
and they can now
There we go.
prove that they can go orbital and then deorbit and not have a gigantic stainless steel can flying around in space. So that's a huge milestone.
Yeah, and of course we have seen the the how good SpaceX Starship is in surviving re-entry heat. That is of course very good if
I
you
look
want to
at the...
re-enter. But
sorry.
but of course if you have uncontrolled re-entry because you're, for example, have a failed deorbit, that capability would then turn into a negative because you have a lot of Starship surviving re-entry. So you want to have this capability of reliably deorbiting ship. Go, Alex.
Yeah, and I just look at the telemetry, went back and look at the speed. It looks like it went up by about 100 kilometers per hour, which is not a lot, but you know it kind of proves that it can at least do the burn when it is commanded to do so.
And now we've got that front flap cam. We're going to start seeing the once it starts to get into the atmosphere. Look at that. That's amazing.
That is the reorientation, right?
Yeah, it is currently orienting for re-entry. That re-entry interface should be in about 5 minutes from now. You can see the altitude is right now 121 kilometers. It is currently in that attitude for the re-entry. It's already with the flaps sort of tucked in for that re-entry. And one of the things as well to point out is the speed will grow. You can see it there. It's still growing up. But at one point, you'll see that it is still, that it'll start to slow down as it goes through the atmosphere.
Absolutely. And don't confuse it yet. This is not yet. Is this the Starship flying into the sun now? Because there's a glow here, but that's not the re-entry glow yet, right?
No,
Well, there's one thing to consider as well, which is because the plasma can still, like this is most likely plasma ionization, very early ionization. Shuttle fans out there, especially Crispy, will probably vouch for this because the shuttle also had this sort of phenomena when it was flying low. It was still in orbit, but it had this sort of ionization sort of deal. It was not still deep into the atmosphere or anything, but this is totally normal. We are in darkness, and so that's a lot more visible right now, that effect.
Yep. And we will see. It's going to be interesting because we will basically experience orbital sunrise here as it re-enters, right? So this is going to be quite an interesting effect that we are about to see. And friendly reminder: this entry interface and this whole re-entry lasts about 15 minutes. So we are in for a journey.
It does take some time. The movie's long.
Yep.
But we can now see it. We have, it was still the first time we saw that coming in, with the Starlink on the back of the ship and seeing the live pictures of the plasma. And now here we are again, doing it again. Or the sunrise.
Also, I want to point out quickly from Ryan Weber in our back channel, apparently that burn added about 81 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
So just to add that as a quick number.
It was also prograde, by the way, just like we expected based on Flight 3.
So the ship is now going further and not.
Yeah, just a tiny bit, because 81 kilometers per hour is not a lot, but good enough for
Not a lot
testing
against
the reliability
26,700.
of Raptor.
And 86 kilometers an hour. Look at that.
There we go. The glow is now intensifying. I think this is indeed some early
Yep.
signs of the re-entry glow. As we are getting more and more witnessing here of that amazing effect that we are only always seeing so clearly on Starship.
It's funny because it looks so steady that it looks almost like the camera is frozen. I bet some people in chat are already saying that it's frozen. I'm looking at the camera very closely, and I can tell you it is not.
And the telemetry's changing.
And so far, yeah, the telemetry and the video sort of go, differently. So far, everything looks good. Lars Blackmore just said that they are good for re-entry. It is holding attitude, and
And now the test begins, and it looks so calm, but this is violent. Like the amount of heat, the amount of energy that they are bleeding off in the next 15 minutes. Against that, the landing burn of Super Heavy is kinda a walk in the park. The energy this heat shield is bleeding off is insane.
And again, they stripped what?
Look at the engine cam.
Tiles off both sides, 6 rows.
It's funny because you can
6
see
rows of tiles.
one of the vents.
So when I said 6 earlier, 6
It's
tiles,
ice on
it's 6 rows of
Yep.
tiles. Is what I meant to say.
Much longer.
Oh, look at
Look at all these
these.
cameras.
Yes.
Yes. They learned the trick from Kevin.
Right. So they're really paying attention to those front
We
flaps.
want to see the banana.
That's where they had issues on the previous flights, 2 flights, with the burn through. But the engine bay cam, you gotta love that.
And
Takes it back, right?
it will change colors over time. This will not stay as red. It will get some different colors. And remember, the thing we don't want to see is a lot of sparks. The moment we see a lot of sparks, that's usually not that great for the ship. We have sight on the booster?
Ah.
Oh
Look
yeah, you
at-
can see some of the flames there.
Wow!
Yeah, there are 2 helicopters flying above it. That's completely normal. Look, part of the process for SpaceX to get approval for these things is, hey, if something, like they say, hey, if something goes bad, we'll deal with it. We'll recover any pieces that are floating that may be a hazard for navigation. And so this is all part of that process, right? That's good. They are being good neighbors, so to speak, right?
And also, just to point this out, there are processes in place how to sink a booster in the ship, and one of them, at the end, is literally shooting the booster. Basically, what they first will do is they will try to open vents on tanks if they want to sink a part. If that doesn't work, they will use ballistic forces, is I think the permission wording, to open that booster up and make sure that it's becoming a natural reef, because most of these boosters will become like a natural reef if they are not recovered. But of course that is very close to the shore, so they might have some interest in actually fishing that out and getting some data, because, well, more data, more better.
And that's what they did with the hot staging on Flight 5. And now that the booster is out there, they can do the same thing.
Absolutely. That's super cool to see that like
Flaps
burning
now
in the
have
distance.
control of the vehicle, by the way.
Oh, so that means there's aerodynamic, because that
Yeah.
means there's enough aerodynamic that so you have to imagine this at the beginning. This atmosphere is super,
And you can see
super
the
thin.
speed going down, by the way, as well.
Yep. So now that speed needs to go to 0.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck.
It will.
Yeah. At the very least, to about 300 kilometers per hour, which is about the belly flop, sort of the terminal velocity of the ship.
It's going to go to 0 one way or the other.
Yeah.
Whether they land it in the Indian Ocean or it lands itself in the Indian Ocean, it's going to go to 0. I mean, launches are optional, landings are mandatory. But you're going to see that number start to, when it gets into that thick part of the atmosphere, that number, that kph is really going to drop, and it's a show. the sparks start to fly. You start to see the smoke come up the sides. I'm really interested to see what happens to the side of Ship 31 when they really get in the hot part.
I'm
Because
also looking forward to that.
Because they changed the entry profile. Like they intentionally want a steeper entry to test that, don't they, Alex?
And also during the belly flop, we're gonna see a high angle of a tank. Just approaching the peak heating of reentry, by the way.
Oh, look at
They're
that.
gonna have a high angle of attack.
And we
that
just
high
heard we're
angle of
getting
attack will
into
be
the
nose
peak
down.
heating phase. We're getting these views courtesy of Starlink. We've got 4 different terminals on the ship itself. It's what's really allowed us to get real-time data during what's otherwise been just a mystery box, essentially, for spacecraft design, where when you're re-entering through the atmosphere, at least getting anything in real time hasn't ever been possible before. But we're able to not just get these views, but real-time telemetry from the ship as it's coming through. Do really want to stress that we are really pushing the ship today. The heat shield is not in the same configuration as it was last flight, where we had a team of ship techs do just an otherworldly task, replacing the entire heat shield, thousands of tiles, installing a backup ablative, and that pretty much set us up to do a pinpoint landing on Flight 5. We did not do that with this one. We have some backup in those really sensitive areas around the flat, but this is an older generation heat shield. And knowing we weren't going to do that, we even went and removed some extra tiles. There are some missing tiles on the nose cone where we're testing some backups. There are some steel-covered tiles in a couple of different spots, and there's also a whole lot more steel of the ship showing.
There we go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look at these flap cameras. You can now see really this is the moment where the ship starts fighting. Because now it has to bleed off these 25,000 kilometers an hour.
That's incredible. And did he say that they did not put the ablative underneath? They did not, because on Flight 5, they stripped the heat shield, they put the ablative layer underneath, and he said they did not do this. This is an older style heat shield, which, again, we saw, massive burn through on Flight 4. I'm really interested to see what happens here.
Yep, and there's one of these flaps. These flaps are the critical point here. That's the point where if something goes wrong, we probably expect it to go wrong there.
I like how he said he's pushing the vehicle. They really want to see what this thing can do. They have the math, right? Alex is smiling because I said the math word. They do the math on the engineering, but then they go, okay, guys, how far can we go? What's the next step? And this is it. We're watching it in real time. Amazing.
Right, kind of crazy that they removed over 2,000 tiles. That's a lot of weight. Also from it would be a huge win if they get through this without these tiles, because that's 2,000 tiles they don't need. That's a lot of payload.
Additional payload, yeah.
Yeah, that translates right to the bottom line for mass to orbit. And you start to see that. Look at the engine bay camera. That is beautiful. Absolutely stunning. And they're entering the peak heating part. We're going to start to see sparks. The colors change, like you said, Adrian. It's incredible.
You're seeing the forward
and they're still trying to
flaps
hit that
and the aft
pinpoint
flaps
landing.
here, forward and
the
aft,
pinpoint near the
forward
buoy in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, it's they're quite in for a journey, and so far
This is one of
everything
the
looks.
forward
Oh,
flaps.
that's a lot of
Yeah,
sparks.
that's a lot of sparks. But that's where that's where they have trouble. Right
shaving
there.
off all this speed.
And also
I say
there are
shave.
aluminium
See it
tiles
shaving
on
off all this
this,
speed.
that might also create sparks, because they are basically ablatives. They will melt through. So yeah, it's gonna be.
And those are test tiles.
Yeah.
And it's 933 Kelvin is where aluminum melts, and then that tells them how the stainless steel is going to react, because I think the melting point of stainless steel is twice as much. It's like between 1670 and 1800 Kelvin.
It's exactly the point where stainless steel would start to change the property, apparently.
Yeah.
So that's the point where it would start to be a bit softer and change a bit of the properties. So if the aluminium fails there, they know their stainless steel will start to be in a bit of a trouble.
Last time on Flight 5, when it was coming through peak heating, you could see.
Halfway through the peak heating, by the way.
Now we're looking at the back aero cover for the rear.
It could be about
flap.
10 minutes away from re-entry.
You could see the glowing on the side of the ship.
Re-entry at the moment, we're about 10 minutes away from.
I'm going to be interested to see once we get through re-entry
Transonic.
if we see the same thing. I love seeing the smoke.
It's kind of dropping pretty.
There we go. Look at you can see the rainbow on the flaps again.
Yeah.
That's so
That's
cool.
That's called something tempering. I can't remember what that's called. I looked it up earlier. I wanted to say that we're smart.
I'm looking forward to have like starships in with like 10, 15 flights later. Who have like.
I
all
think
of
we're
this
starting to
rainbow
see
pattern.
now the orbital sunrise. I just saw the limb of the Earth from one of
yeah.
the flap cams.
Looking
Thermal tempering.
good.
Thank you, Chad.
So we've only seen
Thermal
this in the dark so far. So on the previous flight test, we've only seen
I
this
guess re-entry sunrise is better said.
You
in the dark, so
can
we should
some
see it
sparks,
at
but
daytime.
the good thing is the ship is stable so far.
Daytime
it
landing.
It didn't lose any control authority.
One
it
of the
didn't
things
lose
that
anything.
concerns me is I'm seeing some wrinkles there on the side of the ship,
Oh yeah.
on the steel. You see that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's wrinkled.
Yeah.
T plus 54 minutes. We're into re-entry. We're down to 65 kilometers, and the speed is just shedding off this vehicle.
And that's bare steel, right, Alex?
Yeah, that's bare steel. They removed the tiles there from the side of the ship. We're still having about 10 more minutes until splashdown, so...
And it's that last
Yeah.
5 minutes where things
Oh,
start.
look at that golden.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. And this camera you're seeing is at the very edge, the very tip of the front flap.
Ooh, there we
right now.
go. Look at that. It's coming into sunlight.
Yeah, there's sun there.
So this camera is on the front flap, forward flap, looking back towards the
Wow, what
rear
great
or aft
footage.
flap.
This is
Do we-
incredible.
It's like, oh, now it's turning blue. Everything has a different color. Do we like that?
I mean,
Do
this-
we not like that? I don't know.
The
I
thing
don't
is,
know.
the thing is, the color changing probably means that different materials are now
Exactly, that's my
turning
point.
into plasma.
It's like, oh no, what is burning blue?
Yeah, it's like you have to go through it.
So we're
and
sub
some
2,000 kph, 60 kilometers. And you see the glow on the aero cover right there. That's
Look at the speed being shed.
those tiles. Like they just start to glow red.
19,000 kilometers
And
an hour.
last time the side of the ship did the same thing a little bit. We'll see.
That ship is aging very quickly right
Seeing
now
some
with all of
sparks.
these wrinkles. It's
You can see how fast this is still going by all the clouds that are passing by.
Yeah, you
But
can
yeah, I
start
really hope those wrinkles are not bad news for Ship 31.
Yeah. It's like that's the like I'm not even that worried about the sparks. The wrinkles though, they're like
or,
is that
or
stainless steel melting?
is the color change there? You can start to see, yeah, off to the right hand side, the ground, the earth underneath it. Or is the color change having to do with the daylight interacting with the plasma? Because we've never seen that.
Oh, that could be.
It doesn't have to be metallurgical failure. It
like
could be-
highlighting different colors kinda. Yeah. Oh, look at
How are the flaps
Oh.
doing?
yeah, it's getting. Apparently, we are also hearing. Quickly reported that the fire is also getting bigger on the booster. So there's now been the fire a bit more on the booster. We are now in the golden phase of re-entry. Apparently,
Look at that. Look
this
at
is
that.
I've not been able to see the Earth before.
spectacular
Come
colors.
on.
Oh,
Still 5 more minutes until subsonic.
Fight.
Re-entry
Yeah.
with a view of the
that's
Earth.
that's the right rear, the aft
It's
The aft one,
flap.
yeah.
flap where they
I
put the
don't-
tiles. Did the middle one pop
Ooh,
out? There used to
Did
be-
that?
Yeah.
You see that patch of tiles, right? That's new. There was supposed to be 6 and then a center one. I think the center one
Give it up.
it's gone.
I'm staying.
I'm
staying.
not sure if I like the
These
amount
views.
of control they are performing with this right now, because this has moved quite a bit just now, and we'll see.
They did say they want to do a
how this
nose.
turns. This could, of course, be
Nose
part of
down, but-
their maneuver and their like whole changing the. Oh, that's a burn through.
Oh, yeah.
I think we just saw a bit of a burn through there. It stopped again, but
The wraparound plasma wrap.
yeah, there was definitely plasma behind that flap that's there.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see.
Coming down.
All right, great news there. That tells us that we are through the phase of peak heating. So we are expecting these temperatures to continue to come down. Once again, we are targeting a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean around off the northwest coast of Australia. We can see these beautiful views of planet Earth coming in. Yeah, this is very different, where we had nighttime views of the ship as it was re-entering, and now we've got daylight. It is about an hour or so after sunrise there in the Indian Ocean. So pretty cool to see this.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, and it might not seem like it makes a huge difference, but we do get a little bit more light on ship as well for the camera views that we have, which is very beneficial for us to visually see anything and try and correlate that to any of the sensors or data that we have on the vehicle.
Exactly. That is why we shifted our launch window so that we could have that daylight in order to improve our observations of the vehicle. So not
Am I
only
seeing
are
the
we
same
getting
thing
all
as you
the
guys?
raw
Same
data
view there.
from all the sensors that are on board
Oh, man.
Starship, but we also have multiple cameras and assets out there that are watching the vehicle and will also be able to tell us with this visual story that is also very, very important.
So
'Cause I
I'm
saw
worried about
some of
one.
the-
I wonder if you were about to say that same thing, Alex. I'm worried about the middle camera there that we just saw on the side, because I think I
Yeah.
saw there was some red glow.
Yes.
On the steel.
Yep.
Yep, on the steel. That was that was not plasma glow. That
And
colour
the
of
was
this.
vehicle has
steel.
chrome, by the way.
Yeah, that was steel starting to melt glow.
It's been superheated.
Yeah,
all
that
this
was
stainless steel
forge
here.
temperature.
Got the colour of this.
Yep.
That feels ready to be forge welded.
But they are through peak heating. You can
Yeah.
see it now. The
Temperature's
plasma
coming
is actually
Gone.
starting to fade.
And one thing to remind, so right now they are, still slowing down. By the way, the speed is still higher than the speed of the booster when it re-enters.
Whoa.
Ooh, look at that.
Look, yeah, that's melted steel.
That's bad.
The forward of the forward flap.
We've seen
From
worse.
entry dynamic pressure.
But it's turning. Look at that. It's cooling down. That's good. It's not increasing anymore. You can see it literally like fading.
Yeah, but the wind, the thicker atmosphere, the wind's going to catch some of that. Oh, I don't know. Maybe
but
not. We've seen worse.
I feel like it's going.
Looks
It's
good.
through the worst.
It
And
wasn't
now
fun.
it is at the speed of the booster, by the way, a hot staging.
And then
So
it's-
all of that we just went through.
and it's still in re-entry orientation. The nose
Yeah,
is going to
and-
come down into a belly flop.
Exactly.
Right.
And once it comes into a belly flop, the new theme for this flight will be it'll pitch down to a higher angle of attack. And SpaceX already warned us, don't be surprised if we see the whole thing just, flappity flap essentially
Why are they doing
going
that?
down to the ground. To stress the limits on the flap control, that's one of the things that they want to look at. See if the
There's-
flaps can control it.
There's a good chance what, for example, happened is if the flaps don't have enough steering authority anymore and they pitch forward, they cannot hold themselves anymore. They will pitch, they will basically lose complete steering authority. It's basically pushing, tilting it forward and see, because if you can pitch more forward, you can get more cross range, right? Because you can go faster forward, but that depends on if you're pushing it a bit too much.
And again, I want to remind everybody, this is everything is a test. They want to know how far they can push the vehicle, removing.
Looks like they are
CPU,
under Mach 2. Okay.
24
Should be
kilometers.
preparing for that belly flop soon.
Yeah. You can see the camera
Oh,
moving.
yeah.
Actually, the
Yeah.
forward.
It's going
flap.
Also,
about
the collars on the body
So
of the ship.
about
Look at that.
75,000
This is a
feet.
view
at the
that
moment.
we are very familiar now. Like, in a weird way, I'm having the
Mach 1.
craziest deja vu right now.
65,000
Because
feet.
I'm
And
like, oh, that's...
Call outs aligning with this. You can see the
you
orientation
a
of the
reference
vehicle
point.
starting to change. You can follow that
Against the
graphic at the bottom
kilometers.
of your screen. Again, that is why those flaps are changing. They control the orientation of the vehicle.
Now we're moving into the belly flop. I want to see the nose down view.
So
We're gonna look
15
down.
Yeah,
kilometers altitude is
We are familiar with this
50,000
because
feet.
this view,
Yep.
this kind of maneuver at
We've not seen
daylight,
this.
that's
This is
the
fantastic.
high
We've not seen
altitude
this.
flap test we have seen.
Yep, that's right.
Let's see.
I'm not seeing this on
You think
the
they'll give us
Starship flight test.
this camera on landing when they light for the landing burn, or do you think they'll go full on engine bay cam?
I think we're gonna
look at
go
that.
get. I think we're gonna get a buoy.
Probably, yeah. Yeah,
look,
it's
look,
skydive
600.
mode.
Yeah, 600 kilometers an hour. It's going to almost stall. Like, it's crazy how slow this thing is. That's one thing that people will underestimate.
We're at 30,000
This
feet now.
Starship will be so slow because of its surface area, and basically just glide down.
It's flapping a lot more than you used to.
I don't know what I
Yeah.
would call it a glide. It's falling with style.
Yeah, it's falling. It's falling semi-controlled.
Yeah.
Look at
it's
the
that-
altitude, because once it drops below 2 kilometers, that's when they're going to be preparing for that landing burn.
So
ready.
2 kilometers being
Get ready for some
6,500,
excited commentators. Probably, I'm
6,500
just
feet.
warning you, everybody.
Yeah, right. You already have 3 exciting
We're entering the
commentators.
clouds now. Look at this.
That's true.
Man.
4 kilometers, and it's so slow now.
All right,
It's
good
400
trajectory.
kilometers.
I have a feeling
Good trajectory.
Look at-
There's that
Good
call out.
trajectory. 2 kilometers
Look at the
almost.
Clouds.
Should be. There's, I think, the engine, like the vent that we see.
That's the high angle of attack. Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah, they're just
Yeah,
going
it's
to pitch the
pitching
nose
forward.
down.
And stabilizing again.
Yep.
Now we are
I
waiting
think
for
they're just playing around with the
Raptors.
flaps. I think they're just playing to see what they can do.
They
with the
should
controls.
come any second now.
Excitement's guaranteed.
Are they going to do a flip?
Raptors.
When
There
you-
it is.
here we
1,
go.
2, 3.
And there's the pitch. Nice.
Belly flop.
Whoa.
Whoa,
so
there's
violent.
the sea.
Wow.
Wow,
There's the
look at
boy
that.
that.
Stable.
That's the
Two
boy with the camera.
engines.
Yes.
Woo!
That
Buoy
buoy
shot.
Oh, that's
Beautiful.
very
See, this,
clear.
we have not
Very
seen this in the
blending.
daytime before.
Yes.
And be ready, this could explode. Just saying.
Look at that.
There it goes,
Yeah.
it's full over.
Not exploding.
Bada boom.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that.
Woo! The buoy.
I thought the other one was the buoy cam. That was a ship.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's
not-
burning. It's burning just a bit.
It broke.
Yeah, bro.
Yep.
That's okay.
Expected. But I would
Hang
call
on, so
that.
this is not a buoy. This is actually an aerial asset. Might
Yep.
be out there because the buoy was a lot closer.
Yeah.
I would call this overall, with the fact that they removed 2,000 tiles
It's still
and
floating.
pitched a higher angle of attack. I would call this a very successful ship re-entry.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
This
Agreed.
is the 3rd time they do a belly flop and landing burn successfully from orbit, and the 4th overall.
It's that when
Remember when it was like a complete miracle when it happened with SN15 that it landed, and it's now 3 times in a row from orbit?
Wow.
Like, isn't that mind blowing to think about? When we
amazing.
were like, just next month will be 4 years since SN8. 4 years. and
And-
this is now commonplace.
and everybody thought, well, you're gonna what? You're gonna belly flop? Wait. You're gonna what?
I remember the 2019 presentation at Starbase. Tim Dodd asked Elon, "Are you gonna be doing that landing with the ship?" And Elon said, "Yep, right there," and pointed at the launch site, and it happened. So, like, you know, it's crazy, but that's how it goes. Like, that in the future will be a ship landing on the chopsticks.
Yes.
Yeah,
If they fix all of
that
the
looks
warping.
that looked stable. I have to say that looked mostly stable. Honestly, I look at, there's the booster burning, by the way. You can see in the distance that fire. That's the booster burning.
Don't give up.
Wow.
Don't give up, 13. Don't give up. We believe in you. That's incredible. And still to think that we're not even orbital yet. We're close. We're close. Just a little more push, and we're going to be orbital.
By the way, in terms of how fast SpaceX moved, you know what is already back on the resting positions? The chopsticks.
Oh, I thought you were gonna talk about me.
You're also in resting position.
Always. Always.
Oh, wow. That's
Now,
that was an evening.
I mean, get the patch. Get the patch. Let's go to Flight 7. Let's go.
I mean, yeah. Let's be real. Just to temper expectations here, Flight 7 will not be in a month. I go on the record here. I will say it. Flight 7 will not be in a month. There, by the way, do you remember when chopsticks were there? They're no longer there. They are already back all the way down on the resting position. There they are.
Yeah.
That's good.
And
means
we have to show this. Look at that. Look at what we have there. You know what is coming there. That is metal prints. And this one is from our very own Tyler Gray, who caught the ship in the stack in flight. Look at that. Okay. Absolutely wonderful. The silver bullet here. And as always, you're supporting the photographer.
So thanks to NASA Spaceflight. This has been great coverage as always. And super, super grateful, like I said, for having access to their stream. So we'll see what happens on the next flight test. I'm going to be bringing in some footage and releasing some other videos showing you previous flight tests of the Starship program, and let's see what else we can do.
Vehicle lift off the pad and then pitch away. And as I was looking at it, it becomes a star in
so that's
daylight.
one of the helicopters that we just
you
saw
can't actually identify or distinguish all 33 Raptor engines on the booster. It just becomes one star. And then you can actually see, without any magnification, hot stage, and the crowd goes, woo! Because you could see it. And then you see the puffs of the RCS from the booster reorienting, and then when it comes back down, boom, 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 and then the big flame comes out, and booster lands, and then splits and explodes, and is still floating on fire.
Yeah, it's
crazy cool.
It's quite insane. And I'm seeing people here like being bummed about the booster and stuff.
Nah.
And please, SpaceX said it before, and they have said it over and over again that this is an experimental part of the program. They will only go for it when it's right, and this can happen. This can happen. Maybe
this was not a failure.
Go ahead, El.
This was not.
Can I be in elder mode even though I'm 27? I've seen a lot of Falcon 9s, y'all, and I've been there pretty much since the beginning of these landings of Falcon 9. They are now routine. Don't really bother, because today they didn't land that thing on the chopsticks. Really, like, everything
It's
was
gonna
data.
become
Just
routine.
think about the big picture, right? Everything that they learned today will go and feed all of the things that they'll be doing in the future. Not just the booster splashdown, the ship trajectory, that relight burn, the re-entry, the landing burn on the ship, that high angle of attack. All of that will feed into the future of Starship. As you know, the next flight of Starship will be the...
So this is the feed that we've had access to, and there's some of the guys from NASA Spaceflight up on the roof there of their hotel, and I think we're about 8 miles out from launch site from there. So it's just some of the access we've had has just been fantastic. I'm extremely grateful. I just popped an email across to NASA Spaceflight this afternoon asking them if I could have access to this feed, and sure enough they replied within like literally 5 minutes, and I can't believe it. We've had fantastic footage and some really great commentary. So thank you. So please head over to NASA Spaceflight, give them a like, give them a subscribe. I'm subscribed, as you can see. Be great if you can subscribe to my channel and like my video. It's really going to help as I grow this channel, and my plan is to launch videos every week following the progress of SpaceX and Blue Origin and all things space. So I'm going to be going right back to the beginning of the flight tests of Starship, and we will watch some Raptor, some Falcon 9 launches, because they launch every single week. So we will be able to see some of those, and but I'll be taking you right back to Starship Flight Test 1, and then we can watch. I think what I'll do is do a video with all 6 flight tests in a row on the screen, so we can just visibly see what happened with the timelines all synchronized. That'd be pretty cool. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care.